All right, you ready?
Sure.
3, 2, 1. Yep, there it goes. Oh, how you been, brother?
Well, just another week gone by. Can't believe it's whatever day it is again.
February 17th,
I know.
2021.
I know. It's crazy.
2021's been pretty great so far for me, with the exception of the 3 weeks when I was dead.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, which I would imagine everything's better after that.
Yeah, maybe that's why. It's all a point of reference.
Yeah, right?
Well, welcome to the show, everyone. This is Living NLP Podcast. I'm Nicholas Rave.
And I'm Morgan Lane Bennett. Trying to sound like a radio guy.
Hello and welcome to Living NLP.
Living NLP. So
We're both amazing hypnotists.
Really good. Now I'm sounding like
yeah, really good.
I got a really big show.
We got a really big show.
Okay. So speaking of our really big show.
Not really. This is going to be a short one. You got to leave it like 12:50.
But it's good things. So we do our little show here where we structure it. We tell an anecdote from our lives or our work or what's going on, and a quote that we may have come across in our life and or work about NLP and hypnosis and thinking and pop psychology or regular old psychology or psychedelic psychology or pseudoscience or
philosophy,
quantum fluff, and whatever. So what do you got there, bud?
Well, I had a couple of stories, and I think the one that I'm going to share is it was making me think of, the meta pattern behind all NLP patterns. Yes. The associate to problem, disassociate from problem, associate to resources, associate resources to problem, test and future pace. So I've been I always have that in the back of my mind, especially when I'm improvising.
Test and future pace, technically 2 steps.
Okay, sure. They group those together. You're right. Yeah, I suppose future pacing could be seen as a kind of test, but I get what you mean.
Well, that's
yeah. So
there's
6 steps.
Okay, it works. Future pace is now. Let's go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and they are both important enough to warrant their own step in the process.
You could just future pace and then do that as its own thing too. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. Go ahead, please.
So I was working with someone who, as you know, we've talked about many times on the podcast. One of the things that I do with almost everyone that I work with is introduce people to a personification of their unconscious mind. So I was working with a client who I did that with. We even went through the whole coronation where, they take the throne, and it worked really well, and they were getting some value out of it. And then couple weeks went by and they were floundering a little bit. We started doing some other work, and then they said, I just feel like my unconscious is a long ways away. Like I feel a distance. It's like I can get a response from my unconscious now, which I couldn't before, but it feels like I have to send a telegram and wait for it to come back. So I was like, enough, done, got it. So I'm like, all right, shut up, close your eyes. And then I'm like, you're going to go on a quest. We're going to go find your unconscious who is gone, lost somewhere far away in a distant land. And so I said, do you like beaches or forest better? And they were like, forest. I'm like, cool. That's a trick I learned from I can't remember. I can't even know how to say it. It's like renphonology. It's one particular guy's take on hypnosis, and his one claim to fame was that he said, offer your client a double bind. Right. Lots of double binds where you say, do you want this or this? And it doesn't matter which one it is. But the act of actually saying, I want this, gives them a sense of participation. Like the difference between watching a movie or playing a video game. It's like you're involved in it. And I use that trick quite often. So I was like, do you want a forest, or do you like forest or beach? So he said forest. And we're like, okay, then we're going to go into a forest. Not just a forest, a magical forest. Not just a magical forest, the magical forest, the one that exists from time immemorial. So then he walks into the forest, and we're going down the path, and he comes across an elf, I think. And then the elf gives him a compass. This is all Joseph Campbell. So the elf gives him a magical compass that takes him into the scary, dark swamp in the forest. And so then in the scary, dark swamp, he finds this was the associate to problem, associate resources. This was where I was going with it. So just to recap, go back, before we left on the quest, one of the things that I had him do was I talked about, so he's in the castle, but his unconscious is gone. So I was asking him to talk about the problem. What's the problem with your unconscious being gone? To get him to associate to it. We did it beforehand, but then even in the hypnosis, I was like, what's the problem here when you're here and your unconscious is too far away? So I had him talk about that, then went on the journey, went into the dark part of the forest, and I said, the compass is taking you not to your unconscious yet, but to the reason why your unconscious has been missing all this time. What is that thing there in the dark forest? And I wanted to share this story because when you do this kind of work, whatever your client gives you at that point, whatever their unconscious mind gives you, no matter how weird or irrelevant that it is. And so he found a party. There was a party there, and I didn't even ask, like, was there like a place? And it was just like there in the forest, he found himself in a party where everybody was hanging out and doing stuff. And he was there with his unconscious. And when he was present with his unconscious, he said, it was like my unconscious is my +1. He said, all of a sudden, I didn't give a shit what anyone else at the party was doing. I didn't give a shit what they thought about me. I didn't need to ask their permission. I wasn't trying to impress them. So then I was like, okay, contrast that. What was it like at this party before your unconscious was there with you? And he's like, oh my God, I'm constantly looking around to see what I should be doing, how I can be liked, how I can make the right impression. And it's exhausting and stressful. And then I had him realize, like the fucking footprint story, like you're walking on the beach and there's 2 pairs of footprints. And then so I referenced that, and I was like, you're unconscious. What if that time when you're there and you're working too hard, you care too much about what everybody else thinks? What if your unconscious was always there with you and you just were ignoring your unconscious, pretending that it wasn't there? And so I want you to see that whole scenario with your unconscious just standing there like you brought a +1 and then completely ignored them. And he was like, oh, like mind blowing. And then I went back to, now what is it like? And the party in my mind was metaphorical about the world, life. It wasn't just a party. It was about what other people think about me in general in my life and just letting that go. So he reconnected with his unconscious, and then we continued on the quest, and we found the unconscious waiting at a fountain somewhere outside of the forest. And his unconscious said, I've been waiting for you. I'm so glad you're here now. And then I did something I've never done before. Just intuitively, I was like, so now you have 2 options. Do you think you should bring your unconscious back with you to the castle, or bring the castle here to where your unconscious mind already is and was? And he was like, that one. So we brought the castle, and then we went through this thing about the unconscious being this all-powerful source of magic, and that, like, as the king of your kingdom, the only power you have is the power your unconscious gives to you. So then he was like, oh my God, I have to be knighted before I can be king. So then the unconscious did this knighting, and I talked about the symbolism of knighting is the same as a dog rolling on its back and showing its tender underbelly. That it's saying, you can kill me. I'm giving myself to you. And if you want to, you can kill me. And I'm hoping that you don't. And that's the symbolism of placing the sword right here. And so devoting yourself to service of the unconscious and everything that represents. So then afterwards, he was just like, dude, I can't even speak. Like, what the hell was that? And the whole thing took like 40 minutes of just different metaphorical loops that we would go on.
Nice.
But then like this happened last week, so I'm curious to talk to him in a couple days. But it was like something I'd done a lot, reconnecting people with their unconscious and then going, okay, well, what happens if that doesn't work? Keep playing with it. Keep finding different ways to engage the imagination.
Oh yeah.
That was a fun one. I liked that
Nice.
one.
Yeah, don't give up. Way to not give up and just go, okay, so let's go get it or whatever.
Exactly.
Or maybe you're like, oh, cool. How do you know it's over there? Great. Is it like a picture? Is it
right?
Is it over here? Is it over there? What would happen if you just did that? What do you feel? Oh, no. Yeah, you can do a lot of different things and whatever. And the Renfrewian thing of just double binds, and implications. The implication. Did you ever see that part of It's Always Sunny? Did you ever watch those?
I haven't. I've heard really great things.
I enjoy them. I mean, the first 8 seasons are pretty solid, but then there's another 5 or 6. I don't know. There's some good stuff. But there's part where he talks about the implication. But yeah, I mean, you just through implication, suggestion, you go build the pressure of something's gonna pop, and you go, oh, it's a party, and the guy, hey, there it is. Great. Way to go.
Yeah.
So, nice, man.
Yeah, I love the jumping off point of just, I'm like, for 15, 20 minutes at the beginning, we're talking about what's going on. And then as soon as he dropped, my unconscious feels like it's a long ways away and I have to send a telegram to get a response. I'm like, there it is. That's the opening.
I also, I just last night rewatched the documentary, a series by Professor Jim Al-Khalili. It's like a BBC thing about the history of electricity, which is fascinating as hell. Like the discovery of it, like how they first had it, like how these guys in the Royal Society of England, they're like their little flowing weird hair and their puffy collars, but they're like building little things that like, look, no, it's magic. No, it's not magic though, because they're like pulling the ether down and like handling God and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And like the greatest thing in the last fucking forever was being able to control a magnet at a distance using electromagnetism. And once you can have a long wire, and there's a magnet on the other end and there's a magnet on this end, and you can do a thing with this magnet that makes that magnet do a thing, all of a sudden you got yourself a telegram and there's the world. And once that happened, once action at a distance and controlling stuff, that was the big thing. So your metaphor was awesome. Hey, let's go to the castle. Or maybe if it's a telegram, you could go, cool. What if we laid some fiber optic cables there? What if we put a satellite and or whatever, or whatever. What if he was right here?
Take the metaphor, run with it. For me, I often go in a fantasy realm because I dig that shit. But pick your metaphor.
And the thing that's most important is either use what works or give them a choice to use what works for you, but then also use what they give you, because they will tell you how to undo it. Like the person with the boat. I don't want to rock the boat. So well, hang on a second. Let's go back to that boat.
Yeah.
What's that? Whatever it is, you take what they give you because they're literally telling you how to fix it.
Yeah. That was in my mind, the story about like, don't rock the boat. And you're like, let's talk. What kind of boat? That's exactly what I was thinking with this one is like, okay, let's go on a quest. Let's go find your unconscious. Sure. Where is it?
Cool. Yeah, exactly. Take what they give you.
Yep. All right. What about you?
Well, it's a fairly shortish story, but long lasting, shall we say. So the person didn't give me their permission to say it, so I'm gonna go low detail, but you don't really need them. So parts integration, yay, workhorse for me, oh my God, so often is the thing. The thing. I mean, you did a parts integration.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, it's all part of me this, part of me that, but
yep.
So did an incredible parts integration with someone not too long ago, where they were able to change a thing about themselves that had just been the way they were, and it had been affecting their love lives and their family lives and their all this stuff. And it was just like, ugh. And then an icky thing and a thing that I can't really think about became more than that. Went here, and then I usually have people do this, right?
Mhm.
Now take the thing, bring it in your heart, and then have them become another symbol, right? Perhaps what symbol would that be? What could it
Yeah.
be if they were to then? And this person, I won't even say the symbol, but it was like a simple shape that you can visualize and easily draw. And this person wrote to me yesterday and said that they got that tattooed on their chest.
Oh!
It's like,
oh my God.
that's fucking awesome.
You're like, apparently that was significant to you.
Yeah, yeah. And that they will now use that as the remembrance of all the stuff. And I was like, nice.
Whoa, that is some hardcore magic right there.
Like, okay.
That's how seriously I'm taking this integration. I'm never gonna forget this.
Yeah.
That's rad. Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was like, holy shit, that's cool. They didn't send me a picture of it or anything, but I was just like, they said sternum tattoos really hurt because they'd mentioned that they were going to do it. And I was like, holy shit. So yeah.
Well, now I can appreciate why you didn't share what the symbol is of, because like that's actually on this person. So
yeah.
But
I mean,
dude, that's amazing.
They might whatever, but they didn't. So I'm not. But yeah, I was like, wow, cool, man. You know, that's
I've heard celebrities talk about how weird it is. Some celebrities talk about how weird it is to like meet people who have like their face tattooed on them, or like, and this is better than that. This is
definitely not a face.
this is better. Yeah. I would rather have somebody take something that's symbolic and meaningful to them that maybe I played a part in. That's awesome.
I took part in it, but I didn't suggest what it would be. I just suggested that it could be.
Right.
And they made it.
Right. They filled it in.
And they made it mean the thing. And then they,
yeah.
So yeah.
Now that I think about it, I've had a couple of people get tattoos that represent things that we've talked about, but that one, like the actual, this was a hypnotic experience that led to something from their unconscious. That's
being really right there where they found it. And I was like,
yeah,
I was like, okay, buddy, good for
you. That is what an amazing testimonial.
Yeah. Can I just get
yeah, really.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Dude, so yeah, awesome. That was my thing from the week. Pretty cool.
I love it. All right, I got a quote.
All right.
So short quote, but I'm hoping that we can maybe have a conversation about it. So it's a quote that I had heard a long time ago that I often misquote because I can never remember it. So I went and looked it up. It's Emerson. And the quote is, "Every action is measured by the depth of the sentiment from which it proceeds." And I think about this
you mean
a lot.
Thought that counts?
Well, there's a different way that I've explained this to people is why you are doing something changes what you're doing at a level that can be imperceptible. That it's one way to simple way to think about it is toward versus away from.
Yeah.
Are you exercising and eating healthy because you love your body, you want to feel good, you want to look good, you want to look in the mirror and feel like good about what you see because you want to be able to move, you want to have energy, you want to sleep better, you want to have better sex, you want to be able to be more creative and think better, you want to live longer? Or did you have a heart attack and now you're exercising and eating right so that you don't die?
Right.
What I'm saying is, even if your actions are externally imperceptibly different, like they are the same things you're doing externally, the internal motivation, that's how I interpret this. Every action is measured by the depth of the sentiment from which it proceeds.
Well, but measured by whom? That's the one thing. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if you're healthy because you want to live or healthy because you want to die, I can measure you're healthy and like, okay, cool. I know what you mean, but the missing piece in there is measured by whom?
Fine, but I totally
agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I
So
totally agree.
I mean, measured by you, measured by whatever. I think he's speaking poetically. So the way I interpret it, and maybe this isn't what he meant, but the way I interpret it is that where it comes from, the energy from which it comes changes it, even if the action is exactly the same.
Sure, I agree. Yeah, but I think it probably changes it for the actor more than the perceiver.
Oh, I see. Yes, I see
mean.
your point. Right. Like if you're kind to people and respectful to people because you actually love and care and respect.
Right. Or because I'm a psycho killer and I don't want you to catch on to me, I'm still just gonna be like, oh, that's a nice guy.
From the other person's perspective, it might not make a difference.
That's what I mean. So measured by, I know what you mean. You're right. I agree.
Right.
But I think the missing piece there is measured by whom?
Well,
that's a meta model every good quote in the world and destroy them all.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can help it. Like I bring you a quote and you're immediately well, I
agree. I agree. And it is a thought that counts. And it is like fucking doing the dishes or taking out the trash or like I totally cleaned my entire place yesterday, scrubbed the floors and all that stuff because I wanted to.
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of spring cleaning myself lately.
Right, which made it easy to do.
Yeah.
And I measured it in ease.
That's really part of the point there is if you, whether you're working out because you love it or you working out because you hate being fat, one of them is easier. One of them is more fun. One of them is more sustainable.
Right. And that's what I think you're measuring is the energy, emotional energy, physical energy required to do it or the.
And I will also say that in my experience, speaking as a recovering narcissist, I will say that even externally, I think there are subtle ways in which the energy that precedes your action does come across to other people.
It's called tone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, well, body language, subtle.
But even like, yeah, I said the right thing. Yeah, but I mean, you said it like you hate me and think I'm an idiot.
I remember an interview where someone was talking about meeting Jeffrey Epstein, and this guy was saying that his immediate impression is that this guy is a 100% fabricated individual. That he said this guy seemed like an act. That's what he was doing. But the problem is narcissists are vulnerable to other narcissists. So you could make the argument that this guy saw through his act, but how many people didn't? And
or just bought into it because they wanted
money or so I think where it comes from.
Wait, say the quote again.
Every action is measured by the depth of the sentiment from which it proceeds.
Now, what if Jeffrey Epstein really loved young women? What if that was the depth of his sentiments? Does that make it okay? You know what I mean, it doesn't make it okay. No, but like, who's measuring that? You know what I mean?
Sure.
I just really like killing people. I love it.
Yeah.
So measure my sentiment that way because I'm it's following my list, man. So
well, yeah. And then you have to look at from an let's bring it back to NLP ecology, right? It's got to be a win-win-win. Win for you, win for others, win for the planet. And if it's not, then it's not a good action to be taking. So exercising and getting fit can be a win for everybody. And then we're having a conversation about where does it come from. When it comes to murder or child molestation, that's not a win, even if it's a win for you. Or sorry, other Jeffrey, not you, Morgan.
We all know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before I incriminate myself any further, so much of my work / our work is helping people with anxiety and talking about future pacing, terrible shit, catastrophizing, taking a crappy opinion about yourself or a belief or whatever, and then just spreading that to every possible future in the world, like what is it, Dr. Strange? There's only one future where you're not an asshole.
Yeah.
And everybody panics and worries and frets and does all this stuff. And Mark Twain said once, apparently had this up in his office. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I've had a lot of worries in my life, most of which never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've
it's
heard
just
that
like,
one before.
yeah, I mean, it's just like, yeah, everybody like stressing about shit that's never going to happen. I mean, probably could never happen, let alone like the things you'd have to do to get it to happen. Or like, that's why some people don't even leave their house. Like all these things, they make something negative out of nothing, and then like fret over, like worried about things that aren't even real, like imaginary things. Well, if you're worried about something that hasn't happened, you don't know is going to happen, but you're going to worry about it. Well, why don't you just not do that and think about the other stuff? It's like it's a good thing taken too far. I get it, but like when your ability to perceive potential danger becomes a danger, you
Ooh.
are
Ooh.
you've gone
Good
too far.
point. That was a nice one. When your ability to perceive potential danger becomes a danger.
Right.
And what do you mean by danger? Like it's either
I mean,
causing those outcomes to be more likely or just
right.
it's robbing
Or
you.
just, yeah, it's robbing you of other outcomes. It's basically like being shot at by your troubleshooter.
Mm, mm.
Right?
So this was another story that I was thinking that I've been working with several people on is painting a picture of your future the way you want it to be. And a lot of people don't even realize that the only thing they have in their future are undesirable outcomes. They either have nothing,
Right.
it's
Well, yeah,
ambiguous
that's a
and blank,
big one.
or it's all the bad things that they're like, inevitably these
Right.
things are
And
going to
that's why
happen.
so many people. Are you there?
Yeah.
Sorry, my mail program just took over the whole screen.
Whoops.
So many people have trouble even just coming up with a goal, like we've talked
Yeah.
about before. Like it's just like, no, I don't know. I know what I don't want. And a pretty powerful thing I've started asking people is, okay, let's go out to your future. Let's tell me what's there. Just like, even if it's broad stroke, tell me about it. Oh, I got a house and a wife and this and that, whatever. And sometimes what can be helpful is to go, well, what isn't there? Or sorry, what is there that's not here? Right? Oh, well, it's I'm healthy. Oh, okay, cool. Or I got a better job. Or, it's like a way to go, oh, I want this. And then once they're in the dreamland, you go, okay, well, what is it that's like, rather than go, what's not here that you want there, you go, what's here that's not there? Or what's there that's not here? Just a way for them to kind of go, oh, well, let's do this. That just a different way than going, tell me all the things you don't have right now.
Yeah.
Or go to your future and tell me all the things that you need to get in order to have them.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit different.
One of the most profound quotes I still have ever heard on the topic of anxiety comes straight out of the NLP trainings, and it's often attributed to Tad James. I do not know if he actually originated it. However, the quote is, anxiety is a sign from the unconscious to focus on what you want. In other words, if you are feeling anxiety, you must be imagining something going badly.
Right.
Nobody feels anxious about things going the way you want them to go.
Nobody lines, no professional athlete lines up for the shot and thinks about all the ways that they could miss it.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, what happened?
Or if they do, they're gonna throw up and miss the shot. Right? So the alternative is you have to see what you want in your mind. And it's so simple. I mean, this is like the power of visualization is simply telling your unconscious what you want it to focus on. And it's one of the most powerful shifts you can make. And anxiety is so prevalent right now because the future, like, did we talk about, not to go on to movies again, but did we talk about Tomorrowland?
No. With Clooney?
Yeah. So this was I think a movie that was very poorly marketed and maybe not a great movie, but the premise of it was very interesting to me. And the premise was basically tomorrow exists. And I contrasted this with the glut of post-apocalyptic movies, that every fucking movie about the future is a dystopian zombie climate something. Everything paints a picture about some horrible future, including Star Trek nowadays, which that was the one thing Gene Roddenberry wanted to do, is he wanted to
shat the bed so hard with that whole new bunch of crap.
Let's just pretend they didn't happen. Yeah. Because Gene Roddenberry, his whole point was we need something to aim for. Like, one of the things he would say is there's never supposed to be conflict from within the crew. The crew, there's no interpersonal issues.
Yeah, that's
there's no
Star
money.
Trek. It's like let's go and discover and solve philosophical conundrums or help some people do a thing or like
science, art, exploration, helping people.
Like the Lord of the Rings, they're gonna can that too, right? They're gonna fill it full of sex and dark bullshit and emotional crap when they make the prequel for Amazon.
Also, just fuck prequels, man. I know where the story goes. Like, tell me something new.
But this
like,
way, it's
I know
like
that.
Lord of the Rings, like, let's fucking murder. Yeah.
Give me, like, I don't even mind I don't mind post-apocalyptic once in a while, but now everyone's internal representation unconsciously of the future is a hellish
because we're now living in the pre-apocalypse.
and that is the impression that all these movies install in us. People are being brainwashed, and there's nothing to point to about a hopeful, beautiful future where humanity figures it out, whatever that is.
Yeah,
and that's, to me, that's what Tomorrowland was about, is they were fighting for the future, the representation of the future being this thing that we're striving towards, something beautiful.
By
Disney and it was Brad Bird, man. Brad Bird's made some good movies.
I'm just saying, like, Disney. Oh, I think when the last thing that there will be is that mouse's face melting. You're like, oh.
Gaze upon my empire of joy. Yeah. Assembly line whimsy. Yeah. Okay. I know. Fucking Disney, but like, people can still make good art under the thumb
good
of
all that stuff. Yeah.
So anxiety. Paint. So let's talk directly to the audience here. Paint your future the way you want. Even if the whole world goes to hell, what if you are still great? What if you are the one of the few who manages to make it through and navigate? Even if you go, but I'm a minority, or I'm a woman, or I'm a man, or I'm white and now I'm oppressed, or I'm a Republican, or I'm a or whatever, and you're like, nothing works out for people like me. Well, what if you're the exception? Why not paint that future? Yes, you can say that the whole world is against people like you, but what if you can be the one who navigates all that, because you're that much more flexible, because you take that much more responsibility, because you're that much more influential, because you're that much more positive and hopeful and joyful. Paint that picture of your future. Paint the future that you want. Stop focusing on what you don't want. Let it go.
Yeah, or just like realize that most of the shit you've ever worried about never fucking happened.
Never happened. Yes. Yeah. And tied up there. Nice, neat little bow. 3 minutes to spare. Anything you want to add?
No, just everybody out there, go have fun, do something nice, positive for yourself, celebrate life, fucking be appreciative of people who love you and love them back, and fucking think better thoughts than you used to.
Yeah, you can't help people pull out of the swamp by by drowning in the swamp with them. Yeah. So even if your reasons for feeling miserable are because how can I be happy when other people in the world are suffering? Your suffering doesn't help them.
Oh man, I met a girl. She was millennialoid, and she refused to be happy. Well, she's a white lady who hated herself for being white, and she refused to be happy while anyone, particularly people of color, was oppressed. And I was like, she told me that on our first little date, and I was like, well, you're never going to be happy.
Good luck. How long are you going to wait on that one?
Good luck with that. Yeah.
That's been going on since humans have existed.
Bye. Okay. I appreciate where you're coming from. It's very sweet, but also not very.
You remember the spiral dynamics, the levels and all that stuff? Buried deep in the Master Practitioner Manual from the NLP trainings that you and I took, there's a a speculative page where apparently Tad mapped out what he thought the additional values levels beyond 8 might look like. And he went to Chris Cowan and Don Beck and said, what do you think about this? And they're being consummate scientists were like, we don't have enough data to say, because there's no one to research who's at these levels. But they said, based on what little we have, this seems like it could be close. And one of the things that they talked about the higher levels was there was one on this particular page. They said in order to integrate each level, it had what does this level need to learn? What's the core lesson about it? And at the higher levels, there was one of them that was about this profound sadness that comes up when you become compassionate for all living things in the whole universe. Mm-hmm. And that when you open your heart that much and you care that much, that there is this deep sadness. And they said the thing you have to let go of to get past that level is you have to let go of the sadness. You have to let go of the you mm-hmm. not suffering, empathy
beyond good and evil.
Suffering for because other people are suffering does not help them. Right. And it doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you don't care if you aren't hurting because someone else is hurting.
Yeah, you don't have to hurt all the time. You can know that something sucks. But I mean, dude, I can't leave my house without seeing homeless people sleeping in the street. And I'm not going to be like fucking loser, but I'm also not going to be like, oh yeah. But I can see and feel levels of sadness around it. But
yep.
Anywho, I'm going to go see a few homeless people on the way to work.
Do it, man. I'll see you next week.
Cool. Later, bud.
Peace, love, and NLP, everyone.
Yeah.